Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about the tough but very important topic of human trafficking in Tennessee. Happy to have with us Margie Quinn, Special Agent in charge of the TBI, and Kathy Gurley, Executive Director with You Have the Power. You Have the Power put together, produced a documentary. We saw portions of it. Very powerful, and we've been talking about what we saw. But why this issue? Why did you take on, and I know You Have the Power takes on all kinds of issues, grassroots victims' rights organization. Of all, why this one?
Because this is an issue that needed to be addressed. And as you saw from the documentary and from the stories that some of the survivors told, a lot of this has roots in other issues that we have discussed. And you have to look at both what is happening and what can happen, the impact of all of these issues.
And so we saw this documentary, really well produced. What do you do with it? How do you use that tool? We
go to different communities and do presentations. We've gone to different colleges and done presentations. We did a presentation to the Highway Patrol officers. So basically just going out anywhere in the community to start the conversation, because that's the way you get results.
Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're making progress?
We do. And we have a long way to go, but I'm very hopeful, actually. I'm very proud of Tennessee. I'm proud of their laws. I'm proud of what the TBI is doing. And I think we will. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. The problem didn't come on overnight.
And that's interesting you talk about the laws. Our laws are better, tougher, I guess, than what you found in a lot of other states, right? I mean, I guess, can you talk about how do we stack up?
We're either number 1 or number 2. We'll know in November. Shared Hope will put out another report card. 2 years ago we were number 1. We fell slightly behind Louisiana last year, about a half a point behind Louisiana. So we're hoping with the new laws that the legislature passed this past session that we'll jump back into that number 1 slot in the nation for the laws that we have on the books to protect kids from things like commercial sexual exploitation. And it's really nice to be number 1 in something besides, you know, childhood obesity or illiteracy or something like that. But I can tell you that on a national level, that has given us some concern, because there are states that are so strong, like Tennessee, like Louisiana, Texas, Washington State, but then there are other states that have passed virtually no laws regarding human trafficking. So one of the things that we're concerned about nationally is, have we created destination states in our country similar to what we all have heard about in the news, which are destination countries, countries that people go to in order to have sex with kids. So if I'm living up in Bristol, Tennessee, and it's a Class A felony to buy a 14-year-old girl for sex, and it's still a misdemeanor in Virginia, am I going to go to Bristol, Virginia, or am I going to stay in Bristol, Tennessee? Obviously, I'm going to Bristol, Virginia, because the laws are not as tough. So what we're trying to do on a national level, and this is something that the TBI Director, Mark Gwynn, has really taken on nationally through ASHA, which is the Association of State Investigative Agencies. He's the new president of ASHA this year, and he has really challenged his other state partners to go out and do some of the things that we've done here in Tennessee. We're participating on a working group in order to try to do a national survey to get a baseline of what's going on in the other states, similar to what we've done here in the state of Tennessee. So he's really leading for us on a national level as well.
How did it come to be that we are so good? And I am glad that we're leading in something besides childhood obesity. That's right. But how is it that we lead the nation in this, and other states treat it obviously much less seriously?
I think we have an amazing organization. I mean, as you saw from the documentary, how many different organizations are working on it. And the amazing thing is we're all working together for the same thing, and everybody is putting their best efforts to pull this forward.
It's kind of like a perfect storm. We have a really activist legislature with human trafficking. There have been some tremendous there's a lot of passion in the legislature for this particular issue on both sides of the aisle. I mean, this is something that both parties really get behind, which is fantastic. We've got this, you know, the lead law enforcement agency in the state really taking a stand on this issue, and we've got tremendous nonprofits like You Have the Power, like End Slavery. Look at the work that Magdalene and Thistle Farms are doing right here in our city. It has really just been a perfect storm of interested parties and activist legislatures And we have created, I think, a really unique situation here in the state of Tennessee, and it really benefits kids because the stakes are our kids.
And you were on the front lines of this, and the work you've done is so commendable. But I would think, and just seeing some of the stories, that it would be easy to be perpetually depressed and look at the world through a very dark lens. When you're seeing the kids that are going through this, are you? You don't seem. I mean, how do you not be that way?
Well, I think there's two things. One is, if my philosophy is, if they can live through it, then I can certainly listen to it. And the second thing is, I get to leave there and then go put somebody in jail. And so I feel like, you know, at the TBI, at least at the law enforcement level, we can do something about it. We have the power to actually do something. We can ensure that justice is done for these young victims. You know, we have the nonprofits who are working on restoration, and they get to see these survivors get their driver's license and get a GED and get their first bank account and get their first job. And we get to make sure that somebody goes to jail for a really long time and doesn't harm another child. So there's something on the back end, I think, that mitigates some of the trauma that we're exposed to on a day-to-day basis.
If they can live through it, you can listen to it.
Exactly.
And you can at least not turn your back and say, this is too much. And I think sometimes people do that. You know, they think this is just too much, and if I, you know, don't think about it, then I don't have to deal with it. But that's not the right approach. And in our final few minutes, what are some stories you'd like for people to take away? If it's an individual story, you know, what are some things you'd like people to take away? Or a story, and I'll let you both talk about that.
I mean, I think Sheila's story from the documentary is just amazing, and she is every bit as powerful in real life as she is on that film. And
now, who is Sheila? Tell us a little bit about Sheila.
She is a survivor, and now she has her 10 years, and she has her college degree, and she's going back and getting her master's degree, and she has a husband and children, and she's got the white picket fence, you know.
She's the one that said you can't become a housewife after being a prostitute.
And now she claims to be a really good housewife.
She's really their End Slavery's primary interventionist. She's the director of intervention and services there at End Slavery, and we really rely on her heavily at TBI. So when we've gone out and done operations across the state in the last 3 or 4 months, and they're codenamed Someone Like Me, Sheila goes with us, and she's the first person that these women see when we bring them into custody, because that's what we're trying to do on that side of it. Is when we bring the women in, they go to see End Slavery first, because what we want to do is give them choices, maybe choices they've never had before, and some take us up on the choices and some do not, but they have choices, and you may not save them that day, but 6 months down the road they may remember they have a choice and they call. As we've run these operations across the state, codenamed Someone Like Me, the way we got that particular name was because Sheila was able to bring us together with a young victim who's just out of trafficking. She just turned 18, and she was able to provide a lot of information for our undercover agents. TBI does a lot of undercover work, but we've never done this kind of undercover work. So we had some things to learn. And she was able to put us with this young survivor, give us a lot of information. And at the end of the day, we thanked her profusely for her courage and her willingness to help us on this particular issue. And she said to us, "No, thank you." She said, "You don't know what it means to someone like me that the TBI is willing to go out and save these women." And so we named these operations all across the state Someone Like Me, so that we understand that we're out there for someone just like her.
And it was in there, and it was a powerful moment when I think a district attorney was saying, for some reason society seems to say it's okay to look down on these people and treat them as if they're not fully human. All right, we have to take a break. We'll take a break, come back, wrap everything up. Be back right after this.